appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. Yeah, I think it's I'm from Birmingham, so I kept up with you, I guess, being in Montevallo and Mountain Brook all those years, and have enjoyed doing what all you have done. And so, anytime we can bring that here to Montgomery, which I guess is a little bit outside market, I think it's good for us. So I'm excited to be
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah, well, not to mention that at least y'all are now in that Region 3, which you would know about, and as of us recording this, yesterday Coach Wallace's podcast came out. It seemed to do pretty well yesterday, and it was good to talk to him and get to know him a little bit, and get some new blood up here in this Birmingham Region 3.
Well, we are, and actually, when I started in it, it was Region 6. Back in the day for a long time. I think the region is incredible. I'm excited personally. I know the level of competition in all the sports, really. I mean, that's what Region 3 is sort of known as a football thing. Going all the way back to the Region 6 days and all of that. But I mean, you think about Hoover basketball and what they've done with both the men's and women's programs, and Hewitt-Trussell in baseball, and I even go back to Vestavia and all of that over the years. So clearly, I think Region 3 is the pinnacle of athletics in the state of Alabama. And so if you're a competitor, which our kids are competitors, you want to push yourself and see how you stack up against the best. And there's no question we're going into the best. When you think about Thompson and what they've done here over the last 6, 7, 8, 9 years, Hoover traditionally and what they've done, it's going to be an incredible experience for our kids. So we're excited to be a part of that.
Yeah. So how did Prattville come about for you?
Man, this was crazy. So, I've been a head coach at Montevallo the last 4 years. I think we had a really good run there. Historically, that's a tough job. And so, I think it's 46% win all time. We had 4 great years. I think we won 7 or more 3 of those 4 years. We had a great administration there. I enjoyed it. My dad was the head coach there all the way back to 1998. And so, but I felt like it was at a point where I had great success, and it was probably time to try something different. So I resigned in March. I was really happy that, they promoted our defense coordinator. My dad was on staff, who was the head coach there and college head coach. He's actually stayed, and he's still coaching there this year. So a lot of that is still in place. But when I resigned, I had actually taken a job at Opelika. A lot of people don't know this. So I was with Brian Moore from Hartselle, and I was going there to coach receivers, be the co-offense coordinator. Started with them in the summer, and really, to be honest with you, had no idea this was even a possibility at Prattville. And so it's a funny story. I mean, we were going through summer football. We'd done OTAs. We just played Stanhope. We were getting ready to bring Prattville in as soon as we got back from the July 4th holiday. So Thursday afternoon, we did like a senior event or whatever, kind of kicking off into July 4th. So went to the event. We went to Pat Dye's farm in Notasulga, which is incredible. If you've never heard of it, I had never heard of it. Unbelievable place. We were fishing. Great time. So I'm in the car driving home to Montgomery. And I get a call about the Prattville job, and basically got a call Thursday afternoon, was interviewing Friday morning, and then by Monday of the week of July 4th, I had accepted the job. And I've never done anything like that in my career in terms of you want to talk about not going the normal way. This thing was wrapped up in about 72 hours. But, for me, Prattville is home. I've lived here now 10 to 12 years, and so we bought a house here. My wife was hired by Talbot County Schools when I was coaching at Faulkner. I was offense coordinator there. Yeah. She was the head basketball coach at Marbury High School for 5 years. And so we bought a house in Prattville. And I have lived in the same location when I was at Faulkner, when I drove every day for 18 months to Mount Brook to be the offense coordinator there with Chris, was living in Prattville. Went to Pike Road, was living in Prattville. And then I've been driving the last 4 years. And so the one thing that we have done is we've sort of found a place that we like. This is our part of the world where we enjoy, our kids are in schools here. My wife teaches here. And so for us, Prattville's home. I don't know that I would be doing this at any other school, but to be in the community where we raise our kids and be a part of that, I think is unique and special. And I've never had the opportunity in my career to do that. So, it happened really quick, but we're really excited about it. And I've been here 4 weeks, but it's been a tremendous start.
Man, you and Kalen DeBoer had that 72-hour whirlwind.
Yeah, I know it was wild. It was an interesting experience. And I've been a 7A athletic director before, so I was the athletic director at Montevallo, but it's been a great transition so far. I'm enjoying it. Obviously, there's good administration here. The superintendent is an ex-coach, and so he understands athletics. And I think some of the things we're doing. I don't know if JB got into it yesterday, but some of the things that are going on here in this county, I think are exciting to be a part of. And so we're tickled to death to be here and could not be happier.
I can't believe that you were driving. Like, I didn't realize you were living in Prattville, going to all those other jobs. Like,
Yeah, I love Mountain Brook High School. Like Chris Yeager, I've had the pleasure in my career to work for Josh Niblett, which was incredible. A lot of what I believe in, in terms of the organization of a program, things beyond just football. I think Josh is the master of that. And he's had success everywhere he's been, all the way back to Adiana and Hoover, and now Gainesville is exploded. And so that was tremendous. Working for Chris Yeager was an unbelievable experience. I thought I knew something about football. I was young and the hot shot coming right out of college. And we had a bunch of success at Faulkner. We threw it all over the park. We were lighting the world on fire. And then I went to Mountain Brook and I realized I know nothing. And so, and that was like a sabbatical, really, because the style of play that we did at Faulkner was not the style of play that you get at Mountain Brook. So Mountain Brook, because you've seen them, you shift and you motion and you trade and, it's numbers. And Chris is really good about, football is numbers really, and it's math. And so, how do you figure out to be +1 at the point of it? So I've never thought in terms of that. And, but I will say this, the reason I left was when I was driving 65 construction on Alabaster was a thing. And so it was, I think, 45 minutes to get to Alabaster. And I would look at my GPS and there was another 28 miles and it would be an hour and an hour and a half. And if there was rain, it was 2 hours. And then every now and then it would try to divert me like through Columbiana to Chelsea to 280. That's a parking lot. And so it just, that was tough. And so I didn't really have a choice. We were either going to have to move to Birmingham, where I grew up, which I would have been fine with, but we didn't want to leave Prattville. And so ended up going to Pike Road and the rest is sort of there.
Man, I bet your whatever vehicle you drive appreciates this move now, because your commute now is what? Like, you got like a 5-10 minute commute now?
Yeah, and Opelika was no different. Opelika was an hour. And so the first morning I worked at Prattville, I just followed my normal routine. And what I realized is it was no longer 66 minutes to get to work. It was like 8. And so I just had like an extra 50 minutes with nothing to do. And so I got to school really early. Nobody was here. It's dead of summer and the principal wasn't even here yet. So it was, so I've had to adjust. So I'm still figuring that part of it out because my career has been a career of driving for sure, so it is much different now.
Yeah. Well, you can always use more sleep, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So how, like, going back to March, being the coach at Montevallo, playing for your dad, how hard was that to leave?
I think anytime you leave a job, it's difficult, and the thing that made it tough there is we just had such a good administration. So obviously Lewis Brooks is a superintendent. He's an athletic-minded superintendent. He was the assistant principal at Pelham High School when I was coming through for a year or so. So we crossed over there. My dad at one point had worked for him when Thompson was still a part of Shelby County Schools. My dad had transitioned into a different deal. And so I've known Dr. Brooks a long time. I think a lot of him. Our principal, Steve Bromley, is amazing. I mean, by far, best principal I've worked for. He's an ex-coach. He was in Jefferson County in several places. And so we had a phenomenal administration there. We have great faculty, great staff. Our kids were incredible. I mean, it was a different job than anywhere I had ever been. I've been very fortunate. I've been in, Region 6, Region 3. I've been in Pike Road, which is blown up all over the state, been in college. And that's sort of my work history. And so when you walk into a place, I think the first day I got there, there were 13 kids, 9, 10, and 11 returning that were on the football team. And so there were 29 on the team total the year before I got there. We worked really hard to increase participation. We got it up around 55, 60 kids, but it was different. But what I found in that situation was you really develop relationships with those kids because there's so few of them. And so we went through our first graduating class this past year. My first year was COVID. And so I had a chance to meet with them when they were 8th graders, and kind of see the maturation of a young boy kind of becoming a man, so to speak. And so it was tough because we were dealing with all that. We had all of our senior banquets lined up and all of that. But, this is a career. And I think when you try to figure out where do you want to be 5-10 years from now, I think it was the natural break point to change jobs and get back into big football. At the time, I was, all football thinking, I would continue on in my journey as a coach. And so I felt like I needed to be back, and I missed one-way players, and I miss the way you can conduct practice, the level and depth that you can go into football, at the higher levels. And so, not that it's bad at what we did at Montevallo. I loved it.
Right.
We were great. We were really, really good. I mean, we were like 68% win over 4 years, and had a great run of it, and won a playoff game and all of that. But I think I knew what I needed to do professionally, but obviously the getting from point A to point B, so to speak, was very difficult because it is such a great place. And like I said, our coaches have stayed. Like my dad, you would think your dad would leave when you leave, but he loves working there. And again, the administration is great, so he's continuing on to coach offensive line. And Jim King was the offense coordinator at Mount Brook for 11 years. And my dad hired him in 1993 at Midfield High School. When Midfield had all those great runs, they were doing it. So I got, nobody. This is what's crazy. When we left Mount Brook, nobody leaves Mountain Brook. Mountain Brook, it's like Hotel California. You don't ever leave. Once you're there, you're there. It's a special place. And so I was the psycho guy who left on my own, and nobody could figure that out. And then lo and behold, 2 years later, I get a head coaching job, and I called up, Jim King, who's been like a second dad to me, and I was like, hey man, I know this is kind of weird, but what do you think about coming back to Montevallo? And so I think it took him back when I asked him that. Then he thought about it. He'd been the head coach after my dad and had worked there, and so he ended up bringing his kids there. So Jim is still there, and so the staff that I had was a phenomenal staff. We had college head coaches, Region 3 coordinators on that staff. I think we had 4 coaches, including myself, that have been head high school coaches in the state of Alabama. Incredible staff.
Wow.
And they all stayed. And so Garrett Langer is the head coach there, and it rolls on today as it did when I was there. So that part of it I do think is great for kids. I think there's some continuity and consistency. I'm excited to see kind of what we got going there continue on. And I think they're going to have a chance to be really good this year. And so that was the last piece of it, is you don't want to leave when you think it sort of runs dry. And I do think, when I was there, I think there's 9 or 10 starters back on both sides of the ball. Consistency in the coaching staff, great administration. So I'm hopeful that they will have success there. And obviously I'll be pulling it for them from afar, hoping for their success on Friday nights.
Yeah. Garrett's name is familiar to me, and I can't.
He's a trustful guy. He's a trustful guy. He played at Clay.
Okay. I wondered because he looks very familiar to me, and I'm like, would a guy from my neck of the woods be the head coach at Montevallo? But I know his face, so that makes sense.
He played at Clay. I can't remember. I don't know who it was, like 06, 07, 08, somewhere in there. I don't know who the coach was then, but he graduated.
Might have been Brent Smith maybe back then.
And so Brent coached with my dad, and I think he knows Brent. I can't remember if Brent was there or not, but
he was there a short time. It was a short time somewhere in there, because I know that was because Quentin Dial's one of my friends, and I know he was kind of in that 08, 09 time frame playing there too, and I know he played for Brent. Anyway, interesting. Do you think that while at Montevallo, being the head ball coach and being the AD, like I know y'all made a lot of improvements there, like stadium, weight room, stuff like that. Do you think those kind of things made you attractive to Prattville as an AD, like some of those improvements that y'all made?
I think so. Our principal at Prattville is Dr. Ferris. He was at Thompson for 4 years. And so that's what's unique about this. I think what his vision is for this school and this community is very much a Region 3 mentality, because he saw it at the highest. Thompson right now is the pinnacle of high school athletics in the state of Alabama. And so I will say this, walking around the school, it's incredible. I've never been in a school like this. The organization, the administration, the way the school runs is incredible. And I think a lot of that is his leadership. And so, clearly as we started talking about athletics, I have always felt like athletics is sort of what you meant. I think it's so important with our kids and communities. I do think a good, solid, strong athletic program makes headway in communities. I think it helps promote the community. I think the more that we can put our young athletes on display, the better we're going to be as residents of Prattville. And so I think he buys into that. So, clearly some of the stuff that we did at Montevallo translates. And as I told them, we did $250,000 in renovations at Montevallo High School. I think that's unheard of. We lobbied City of Montevallo. We lobbied County Commission. We were able to get local funds through local municipality running through the school. We were able to raise revenue. We were able to renegotiate contracts. I mean, little things like this. We redid an apparel contract with BSN, and I think it was over 100% increase in the revenue when you look at what we got for the school. And how does that translate to kids? We were able to basically buy 2 sets of uniforms per year for a male or female sport. So over the course of our 4 years, we had complimentary uniforms from Nike given to every sport on campus at Montevallo High School. And so some of those things I think matter. The difference is it's to scale, right? So we had 500 kids in the school, 150 athletes. So $250,000 at Montevallo goes a long way. That's sort of the tip of the iceberg and what happens in Region 3. But if we can have some of the same success here that we had there, I think we'll be in a good place. The number one thing that we want to do is we want to be branded and we want to be visible. We want to be engaged on social media. I think now when you think about, what does the modern athlete look like? It's an athlete really that first and foremost wants to build and promote their own personal brand. And so how can we as an athletic department enhance and get involved in that? And so, like today, and you take this stuff for granted, but, like graphics and social media, we've never had a true partner in that area here at Prattville. So we've got Pure Game on our campus today. We've gone from having 1 or 2 sports locally to where we're basically doing a school-wide deal with them. We've got just about every sport here on campus. We've got graphics programs that we've brought in for our school. And again, does that help us win football games? No, but it helps build brand and identity. And the idea is that our kids will feel like they're getting what they would get at the next level. So we're working on weight room project right now. We got 1,800 or so kids in this school. We have 1 weight room that services all 600 athletes. And so clearly we have some issues that we're working through where we need more space. And so we've had 2 or 3 corporate sponsors come on board with us this week that have been very generous with their support. And we think there's a space in our gym where we're going to be able to essentially build out a weight room, put 10 to 12 racks in it, put new rubber flooring in it, graphics all over the walls. And it'll be nicer than the weight room we had at Montevallo, which we redid completely there when I got there. So how does that affect the athletic department? It eases the access in the indoor with our football program, who's running 150 kids a day through there in baseball. And it gets a true dedicated facility for our basketball programs, men and women's, for our volleyball programs, for our softball programs, et cetera. And so we're going to try to do a lot of the same things we did at Montevallo. I don't know that, thinking back about your original question, I don't know that it's always apples to apples, but the ingredients are the same. At the forefront of everything we want to do, we want to be about our kids and our athletes here in this community, and how can we give them the best experience here we can. And so, yeah, we've got some work to do. We want to start a supplemental nutrition program and build out all the things that athletes require to be successful, in this day and time. And so we're going to try to enhance and promote that ad nauseum to help our kids,
Yeah. Well, and you said, I was actually the other day I was talking to Jake Gaines at Moody, and
Yep.
Moody is very big on the social media. They might be some of the ringleaders in the state in terms of using social media for their programs, for their kids. And to your point, you mentioned it might not help you win games on the field, but it builds a brand, it builds an identity. But I would also say that within that, it produces pride, right?
Yeah.
And then, if kids are seeing that, parents are seeing that, they're going to want to be a part of that. So while it might not, hey, this does not have a direct translation to beating, Hewitt-Trussville or beating Thompson or beating Oak Mountain or whatever, it goes a long way, I think, in really kind of unifying a community and getting everybody on board. And, the more people you have behind you, that ultimately kind of can be an intangible on a Friday night or on a Tuesday area basketball game or whatever,
Yeah, and I think Moody is. I agree 100%. I think Moody probably is doing social media the best in the state right now, at least to what I've seen. I will say this. I think so. I've told people this, and I believe this. Just having been around Hoover and Mountain Brook now, like in 6A, 7A athletics, when you're dealing with enrollments of 2,000 kids. Let's just do some simple math. Let's say you 50-50 split male to female. So that's 1,000 males walking around your school. You can't tell me that at most Alabama high schools, as crazy as athletics is in this state, that there's not 45 or 50 talented athletes walking around your building. And so I think everybody has players at this level. I think whether you go 2-8 or 8-2, I don't know that there's a big gap in talent. I mean, obviously there is a little bit. And again, you start talking about your high-end 5 stars, but just there are athletes walking around most schools of this size. And so, when you look at like Mountain Brook, why does Mountain Brook win? The average kid walking around Mountain Brook probably doesn't match up with what's going on at Thompson or Hoover. At our level, I really do think it's the support system that's in place and the resources and community engagement, and how do we take the raw athletic ability that we have in schools and how do we refine that? And so social media plays a role in that, and I think our nutrition program plays a role in that. I think the local businesses play a role in that, because again, people, when you have players, it's how do you separate yourself from everybody else? And again, I think everybody has players. And so how do you build a program in a way that's sustainable long-term, that can produce growth, and that will allow you to sort of put yourself at the forefront? And so everything matters at this level. Your equipment trailer matters, and how you travel to games matter. Are we on charter buses? Are we on school buses? Your uniforms matter, your branding matters, your media matters, and all that comes together to put the best product on the field. I don't think it's unique to see that. Like, look at college football. Who are the top spenders year in and year out? And usually the top spenders are the ones that are the most successful. And you look at budgets, and that's why the media companies run. Hey, who spent the most, in their athletic budget? And so obviously you have to be fiscally responsible. I think that's a big thing. Like, especially for us in Autauga County, we're a locally funded school system. We have to make sure that we manage our money and our funds here well. But when we have an opportunity to promote, enhance, or build up on the quality of the experience for our student athletes, we need to do that. And so, that's where my job comes in. I think for me now, I'm not caught up or hung up here in what we're doing on 3rd and 4 from the +12 anymore. That's not my world. My world is, how can I wake up every day and got to try to develop some partnerships in the community, get our support system such that we can go and be competitive and on plane with what's going on with the Birmingham schools, which really across this state lead the market there in terms of resources for high school athletics.
Yeah. And so some of that kind of to that fiscally responsible, some of the money stuff that you get to be a part of as an athletic director, what all is going on at y'all are in a unique spot this year for football. Y'all have some, is it renovations going on at Stanley Jensen Stadium, and y'all are going to play your home games at Wetumpka?
Yeah, we are. Well, I'll say this: what's going on here is incredible. Again, to give you the backstory on it, there was a time where if you were an assistant coach in this school system, you were vastly underpaid, and that is not the case. So big picture athletics, what's happened here? Last March, prior to my arrival, our Board of Education, I can't give them enough credit. A lot of our Board of Education are made up of ex-coaches, ex-school administrators, and they get the athletic side or the athletic piece of this. So we went in and completely overhauled the salary schedule for athletics in this county. And so now our coaches are paid in the top 10% of the state. I mean, I've seen it. I've been at Hoover High School. I've been at Mountain Brook. I know what you make there, and I know what our coaches are making here. And it does not take a back seat. So our people now, for the first time, are being compensated the way we need to be compensated in this region and at this level. Our facilities are going to be second to none. So I think, and again, I've been here 4 weeks, I don't want to misspeak on the numbers, but there's a renovation going on at Stanley Jensen Stadium, probably close somewhere to around $20 million from what I've heard. And it may be a little bit underneath that, but it's going to be incredible. There's a lot of tradition and history in that stadium, all the way back to Autauga County High School, and from listening to people in the community that played there 40, 50 years ago. And so I do think when you can figure out a way to take sort of the existing footprint, the existing stadium that's got all the tradition and lore of that, so to speak, and infuse it with a modern renovation, kind of like what you see on colleges. You never see a college program knock a stadium down. They enhance it. And so considering that we don't have to do a new visitor side and we don't have to do a new field because the artificial turf's brand new, we're putting, when I say $20 million, it's $20 million into, concession stands, locker rooms, home side, press box, media suite, everything that you need, to build that from scratch would probably be $40, $50, $60 million stadium. So I think our stadium setup here is going to be the best of anywhere that you go. And I think it'll still have the charm of what, high school football on a Friday night in Alabama looks like. But I think when you see some of the amenities that are going to be in, it's going to be second to none. I mean, it really is. It's a Region 3 stadium and then some, having been in all of those stadiums. And then, we're fixing to, and it's been board approved at this point. It was discussed at one of the board meetings I went to a week or so ago. We're about to completely overhaul our training facility for our student athletes in the back, so our football team. And that's a facility that is dated. It needs some help. And so we've got an indoor in it currently with 30 racks. Really, really a great setup. Coach Clark built that. I think it was one of the first indoors in the state of Alabama. And so we're leaving the indoor, and we'll sort of imagine that space. But we're getting a brand new setup. So our student athletes, when you walk in, our new training rooms, locker rooms, meeting rooms, coaches' offices, and it's a several $1 million project as well. That I think will put us on par with everybody in this region. And so when you talk about Prattville and the football program here and the athletics program in general, we're going to have facilities here that will be second to none. We've got a great work environment for prospective coaches and assistants. Obviously, JB Wallace is a great coach, but if JB has no quality assistants, JB's not very good. And so we've got to be able to surround our head coaches who we've hired with great, assistants. I think we're going to do that. And then obviously we're going to have a first-class place to play. So I say all that to say it's coming, but it's sort of part of our progress, so to speak. And we're in Wetumpka this fall. I had a chance to go over there yesterday. We were practicing in it with our team. And so I'm practicing with the athletic director. There's never been a video board in Prattville. So we've sold, sponsorships, and we've got local corporate partners now that when you come to the game next Thursday at Pike Road, you're going to see your business's commercial playing for the first time, blasted out to all 6, 7, 8,000 people there. We've got rolling boards for video sponsors. And so again, if you've been in the Birmingham market, you sort of take that for granted. But here, it's unique and it's coming. And so I think our game day experience at Wetumpka is going to be a really good transition back to 25, in our home stadium in Prattville at Stanley Jensen.
Yeah. So like let's say y'all make the playoffs this year. Is there no chance at Stanley Jensen this fall? Like y'all are going to go full in for 2025?
Well, it's interesting you say that. So obviously our seniors have grown up playing in that stadium. We play youth league football in that stadium, junior high. And so, the one hard part about this whole thing, I think everybody who sees beyond the 3 weeks in front of your face, so to speak, when you think big picture, we're going to have an incredible setup for high school athletics. We're going to put on a great game day experience here at Prattville High School. It's going to be second to none. The group you sort of feel for are the seniors this year. And so, and they get it. They understand what's happening. I think they'll be excited because at some point, they'll be alumni. They'll come back. We hope they raise their kids and families here in Prattville and put their kids in school here. And most of them will. In my experience, Prattville's very proud of its traditional legacy. People come back to Prattville because you want to be here in the city. But we need to figure out a way to sort of send them off. So we are playing the last game of the year I think it's an active construction site. My understanding, we had some meetings. There's going to be a lot of roped off areas. There's going to be a lot of security. There's going to be a couple of entry points. But we tentatively are hoping to do senior night in our stadium, and it'll be kind of like the setup last year. Last year, I think midway through the year, they took the visitor bleachers down to go and get that project started. So everybody was sort of on one side, and they had it all sectioned out. And I think it'll be like that again. We're going to play Jag the last game of the year, November 1st here, and so we are tentatively planning to give our seniors the opportunity to go through senior night and all those festivities in Stanley Jensen and be a part of that. And I'm excited for that. Beyond that, if we're hosting a playoff game here, I mean. I have no idea. I mean, I don't know that anybody's thought about it. We're trying to get to game one and hope we can get the lights on at Wetumpka, because none of us know how to turn the lights on there. It's the city of Wetumpka's field. And so, but Wetumpka has been great. I say that jokingly. They've been great. Literally, we have full access to that stadium, video board, VIP rooms, concession stands, whatever we need, we have. Personnel, they're bringing out security officers in addition to what we bring. And so they have been a tremendous partner to work with. And, this is a very, very unique situation. I don't know of anybody else off the top of my head that I've thought about that has had to go through this before, where you're actually building a stadium, and so you're having to travel and play somewhere else. This could have gotten sideways. And again, I think about the leadership of Watauga County, and then the city of Wetumpka and the city of Pratt sort of coming together to figure this out for our kids. Again, everything we do in high school athletics is about our kids, and so to give them an opportunity to play and have a great experience. And, we'll have our senior banners hanging at Wetumpka. We'll have our field signs out. I mean, it's going to look and feel a lot like a Prattville football game outside, the logos on the field, so to speak. But yeah, we're hopeful to play the last game in Stanley Jensen. We want to be playing in the playoffs like every high school team in the state. If we do, that will be a great problem. I'm sure there'll be a lot of long nights figuring that out, but we'll come up with a solution at some point, when that happens.
Yeah. That game against Jag, that could be really cool. Like especially student section wise, y'all, I mean, obviously it's going to pack out anyway, because, it'd be the only game there potentially. And, y'all could get some Prattville colors and logo, like plastic hard hats made, and
Yeah.
bring your
Yeah.
hard hat. Everybody could look like a construction person. You know how these student
Yeah.
sections theme each
Yeah.
week. Y'all could do something
No
with
doubt.
construction.
It will be fun to see. And again, we met with Prattville last week about it, and the city of Prattville has done a great, like, what do we got to do to play this game? They want their residents, and they want the kids to be able to play there. And so again, this is a massive undertaking with construction companies and police. And I mean, again, things you don't even think about. If we have a situation, how do we get people in and out of the stadium in a timely fashion? Like, what are our emergency exits? How do we get emergency vehicles? If we have an injury, how do we get a fire? How do we get an EMT on the field? Because that happens. And so it's very, very complicated to work through that. And but I'm confident we're going to get it pulled off, and I'm excited about it for our kids. We had a tremendous meeting a couple of weeks ago with contractors and all the local parties involved, and I think it's going to be a special night for our seniors to have the opportunity to do that.
Very cool. So I'm big into, for a words guy, I do like going through numbers sometimes. And I asked JB about this too. Whether it happens this year, whether it happens next year, it'll probably be one of those 2 years. What I'm looking at from the Alabama High School Football Historical Society is that Prattville has 593 wins in program history. So you're only 7 away from a kind of fun milestone. Every time you pass another 100, you get to 600 wins. Is that a kind of thing that when that happens, whether it be middle of this year, late this year, next year, whenever, is that a thing that y'all celebrate? Do you take note of stuff like that, or is it just on to the next one?
I think Prattville High School has been playing football now for, I don't know if it's quite 100 years, but a long time. And so
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know how long it is. What I do know is, so like my son, my youngest son, is at Prattville Kindergarten this year, and when you walk, and they actually are building a new Prattville Kindergarten that will open in October. But the kindergartner started the school year in the traditional Prattville school, and I've heard them talk about that school is 100 years old. And so when you walk in the building, it says Autauga County High School on the front of that school. It does say Prattville High School. So Prattville was known as Autauga County High for a long time. And then when they built the current school building in the 70s, transitioned the name of Prattville. But I have talked to several people. Of course, we've lived here 10 years, so we go to church here, local and community. And I always found myself talking to people who went to Autauga County High, Prattville High, walked across the street to play in Stanley Jensen. The success that's been had here, even back to 1984, I think, or so, when they won the one state championship first in school history. We're doing a celebration. We're going to try to do a celebration this fall, and what we would like to do, and we're still working through all the details of this. We are trying to set it up to do it the last game of the year and have the team members there sort of come out on the field in between the first and second quarter and highlight them and all that. I say that to say there's proud football tradition here at Prattville High School. 600 has got to be in the upper echelon of high school. I mean, you got it up. It seems like Fayette County and some of those programs, T.R. Miller, traditionally are really, really good across the state. But Prattville's got to be right there in the middle of that. So absolutely, when we hit that milestone, we want to celebrate that. We want to celebrate all of our teams. Like when you look at our social media account now, I'm involved with our social media, but there's a gentleman here named Stacy Mills who's sort of like the adopted SID, works for a local media company, puts on the JB Wallace show on Friday nights, involved with the broadcast of Prattville High School football. And so he's sort of our resident historian. So like right now, I do a lot of this stuff on social media, but every morning right about now, there's a post that goes out about this day, and there's 11 days to game day or 9 days to game day, whatever it is. And there'll be somebody from the past who was a dominant player. And there have been a bunch of them at Prattville. And it's sort of a little post goes up to highlight that. And so, and those posts they go crazy. Our people like, yeah, I mean, that's where the impressions come from. And so, but I think that speaks to the tradition and the legacy that's here. Obviously, you don't have to go back very far to talk about what Prattville football is. I mean, within the last 20 years, I think won 4 state championships, played for 5 or 6. I mean, Prattville at one point dethroned Rush Probst in Hoover High School because you remember the 2 days era, and Hoover was going for 4 or 5, and I mean Prattville was on MTV, and everybody was like, who is this? Well, everybody in Alabama knew, but and then you see obviously what Coach Clark did in his career, but the players that came out of that, a lot like you look across the state at the dominant high school coaches with Zach Golson at MGM and a lot of the Pell City crews over there.
Yeah.
You know, Prattville football is spread out all across the state, you know, and a lot of those guys came through during that era where when it was Friday night in Prattville, it's a place you didn't want to play, you know, and so it is a dominant history, and it is a very vaunted legacy in terms of what Prattville football has been and what I believe Prattville football is. I don't think there's any reason that Prattville will not be successful. There's great tradition, there's great legacy, there's great resources and infrastructure here. You know, in some ways, the market in Montgomery might be a little bit better than the market. There's not as many teams in Montgomery, and so you know, Prattville is sort of the forefront in the identity of what, you know, Montgomery high school football is here. And so we very much expect to win here, and we want to continue on in the legacy and the tradition that has, you know, happened here.
Yeah. I was looking, I pulled it up. It looks like right now, all time, Prattville is 45th in wins. So, well, I say 45th. They've got these listed in a certain kind of way. So maybe it's more like tied for 43rd. Like Addison and Sweetwater also have 593 wins. So everybody and their brother is chasing that year after year, that Aniana TR Miller back and forth that happens every year. So they're in the over 700. So
you know, you hear coaches talk about all the time, especially now on social media, like there is such a thing in the state as a bad job, you know, and there are some places that you don't want to be. There's some places that are inherently hard to win. Prattville is not that place. You know, there are great players here. There's great tradition here. You know, there's going to be great facilities. And I think this is the place when our kids go out on Friday night, they expect to win, and our coaches expect to win, and our community expects to win. And so we're very much excited about where we're going, you know, with our football program and all of our athletic programs. I mean, again, we haven't talked much about this, but our basketball team has been in the Final Four the last 2 years. And so, I mean, tremendous girls basketball. Our flag football team played the semifinals last year, has a majority of the roster back. You know, when I think about Prattville athletics, like my journey as an athlete, I was on that 2004, you know, Pelham baseball team that won the state championship with Mike O'Berry when Pelham had a tremendous run of baseball, you know, early 2000s. And we played Prattville in the state championship game at Patterson Field. And so, you know, athletically in all markets, Prattville is a phenomenal place to Prattville is a great place to raise a kid. You know, I put my kids in school here, but athletically, it's a great place to be a student athlete, you know, in the K-12 setting. Every sport here matters, and most of the sports here have had success continuously over the last number of years.
Yeah. I'll get you out of here on this one. I was curious, you know, reading the release, I guess, from Prattville when they made your hire official. It said you had coached not only football in your career. I don't know which schools you coached these sports at, but that you've coached golf, bowling, and tennis. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I have. Yep.
All right. If you had to rank those sports in terms of how much you like them, golf, bowling, tennis, which one's number one for you?
All right, so I played golf in college. A lot of people don't know that. I'm seen as a football guy, I guess, because my dad and my family. I was a college golfer. Yeah, so I blew a knee out. Did not get an opportunity to play baseball, football in college. I woke up on an operating table and they said, "You're done. You're finished. You've got juvenile rheumatoid arthritis." I was 17 years old. That was an incredible time, but I knew I wanted to coach, and so I felt like I needed to do something. And that time I wanted to coach college, so I felt like I needed to play something and then transfer out after a year or so and then go be a student assistant and sort of grind it out, try to climb. So I taught myself to play golf, and I was very fortunate. I was the worst walk-on golfer on a really bad college golf team at that time. And so I was just good enough to be on a below-average team. But it's funny because I went down there to play golf, loved it, had a great experience. I started football, started working as a student assistant, and then I ended up going to Hoover. I came back to Faulkner. I played at Faulkner. And a guy named Brent Barker was the head golf coach. And Brent knew nothing about golf. He was a baseball coach. And at one time, he was the winningest baseball coach, college baseball coach, state of Alabama. And they said, "Hey, you're the AD. You probably can't be the AD in baseball, but you can start golf." And so he knew nothing. I knew nothing. And we bonded. So Brent, lo and behold, ends up getting the head football job at Faulkner in 2012 and hires me back. So he was the head football coach and head golf coach and athletic director at Faulkner. And Brent goes out and he went to Europe and got a whole bunch of like European golfers. And they took like a 9-stroke lead like 3 years after I finished playing, and we were terrible. and they go into the last day of the NAIA National Championship. They got like a 9-stroke lead. Ended up finishing second, kind of fell apart on them back 9, but incredible. So no, I played golf. So obviously, love football, but of the other sports I've coached, I enjoy golf. But believe it or not, the most fun I've had is coaching bowling. Bowling is incredible. I don't know if you've ever been to a high school bowling match. I didn't even really know they bowled in high school until I went to Mountain Brook, and Shane Stern said, "Hey man, you're new here. Great place. Got something for you. You're now the new head girls bowling coach. I can't do both." And so Shane's like, "Come on, we don't do anything. It'll be a blast." And it was awesome. So I was the girls bowling coach at Mountain Brook. Knew nothing about bowling. Still don't know anything about bowling, but I liked it, and so went to Pike Road, and I talked. I talked Pike Road, Dr. Ledbetter, who's now superintendent at Pelham. I talked Dr. Ledbetter and David Sykes, our principal, who's an ex-football coach. I talked them into, hey, let's start a bowling team here. And so we did. We started a bowling program at Pike Road, and that was awesome. And I like bowling because, the kids that you get to interact with on a daily basis in bowling are not the traditional like football, baseball student athletes. You see a different part of the school that maybe we don't get to always see in athletics. And so I enjoyed that, which is really the reason I was so excited to go into the administrative route, to be around all kinds of kids, and so I enjoyed bowling. I like golf, so I had the pleasure of being like the bus driver, not the bus driver, but I was the van driver at Mountain Brook. And I got an unbelievable state championship ring, because Mountain Brook Golf, there were 6 golfers on that team that signed Division I scholarships. You could only play 5. Gordon Sargent was on that team who played in the Masters. And so I was like the school sponsor golf coach. I got an unbelievable state championship ring, and I did absolutely nothing except make sure they get there. And if they got there, we were going to win because we were loaded. And so golf is fun. Tennis is not my favorite. The problem with tennis is you usually get 5 or 6 courts, but it takes forever because you got to play girls singles, boys singles, doubles, and it's just long. Tennis is the longest sport there is. So tennis would be my least favorite. I kind of wish they would make pickleball a thing and like tennis would go by the wayside. I don't know if you can say that, but I don't know. I know Birmingham has been on the pickleball thing forever. It's come to Montgomery now. Like they've just opened up 24 courts in Prattville. There's a place called 17 Springs, which is probably one of the premier athletic facilities. If you have a chance to look that up, what they're doing in Millbrook, they moved the Blue Gray tennis tournament to 17 Springs and Millbrook. They've got like 30 pickleball courts, and it's exploded here in the River region. And so I'm hopeful that comes in at some point because that'll be awesome. And that might be my favorite ball of them. But no, bowling, if you ever get a chance to cover a bowling match, it is awesome. It is wild. I mean, it's not quite Big Lebowski, but it's not far off. And so I had a blast with it, and I love bowling, and I can't bowl, but I enjoyed coaching it.
Yeah, no, that's a good list. I still play golf when I can, but that was my sport, and a school sponsored sport in high school was golf. And at the time I played at Hewitt Trustful, and we were pretty good. I mean, I wasn't. I mean, we probably had 13, 14 guys on the team. I was somewhere in the middle, 6, 7, 8, depending on the week. And it's funny because Hal Riddle was our golf coach for a while, and Hal's the football coach in AD. So hey, here's your golf stipend. Make the schedule. Make sure they get to practice, and that was it.
What's interesting about that? Golf is a fall sport in college, and so a lot of states play fall golf. And they won't do it in Alabama because about every football coach in the state's the golf coach. I mean, it's a coaching clinic when you go to a golf tournament. Like I remember I was coaching the girls team at Hoover, and I think we went out and played maybe Clay or something Leeds. But I remember Jerry Hood was there, and about 5 or 6. Buddy Anderson was the golf coach at Vestavia for a long time, and so every golf tournament, you'd see like dudes up there drawing on the back of a napkin or a hot dog, wrapper. Hey, how are we going to block inside zone this year? As the golfers are out playing 9 holes at Roebuck or wherever we were playing, And so, yeah, that's you're 100% right on that. That is a football dominated sport, so to speak.
Yeah, it was always funny because like we were pretty good. Like I think maybe my senior year, I didn't play we only took like the 4 to state. I forget, it was at a course down south. I forget which course it was at, but we were good, and a lot of the teams in our kind of area weren't so good. So most of the time we would just schedule Mountain Brook a ton. Like Mountain Brook
Yeah.
was our rival in high school. That's who we played, and we were competitive with them. And I often was matched up with the same guy. We became friends in high school because every time we had one of those just 9-hole matches, it was like you again, you again, you
Yeah.
know. And it was Hubert Green's grandson.
Yep.
And
Yep.
Hubert Green would, he would help the team. We'd play them out at Birmingham Country Club, and every now and then Hubert would be there following his grandson around, and I'm like middle of the road player on our team, and I'm having to
Yeah.
play in front of Hubert freaking Green. Like, this
Yeah.
isn't fair. Like, follow our number one who's committed to South Alabama. Follow him.
Right.
Just leave me alone,
Yep. And it's funny because I have the same story. So I played it my senior year when all that happened. I played at Pelham my last year of high school, and so we go out to Vestavia Country Club, and I was a senior, and I think I was playing 2 or 3 then. But I'd signed at Faulkner, and so I was going to be a college golfer, even though I was terrible. And so we're playing at Vestavia, and I remember the Buddy Anderson. He was talking to our golf coach, and he's like, "Well, we got 2 8th graders that are going to play in the 2 spot or 3 spot, whatever it is." And I'll never forget this. And so I'm on the first tee box, and these 2 8th grade kids walk up, and I'm a senior, and they introduce themselves to say, "Hey, I'm Smiley," and they said, "Hey, I'm Happy." As it turns out, it was Smiley Kaufman was in the 8th grade, and so I thought I was somebody, and so I proceeded to get waxed. I mean, I think I shot like, I don't know, 39, 40. I mean, whatever. And this kid goes like 3 under par. He's in the 8th grade. And I remember you have to sort of, tuck your head between your tail, so to speak, because I walk off the 9th green, and I've been demolished by an 8th grade kid. It beats me by like 8 or 9 strokes. Turns out he played on the PGA Tour and played at LSU, and and just got waxed. And so, but I never forgot those names. And then I did feel a little bit better when I was watching him play on Sunday, a few years ago. I was like, well, at least if you got to get smoked by an 8th grader, he played on the PGA Tour. So yeah, I guess everybody had
played in the final group of the Masters that
no
one
doubt.
year.
And you want to talk about getting waxed. I mean, I got smoked out there at Vestavia Country. I mean, it wasn't even funny.
That's funny. Like I was talking to not long ago, Coach Stuart Floyd at Clay Chalkville, before he came back to Clay. He spent that like 1 year, I think, as OC at Springville, and he was the golf coach there for them. And they had a girl, I'm forgetting her name. I think it was Molly something. And I asked him like what his future was going to be, or something like that. So something about down the road. And he was like, "Hey, this girl is like legit." He was like, "I'm hoping maybe I got my 25 years in, with the state." And he was like, "I'm hoping I'm going to be carrying her bag on the LPGA tour."
Yeah. Yeah. It's incredible. It's fun to watch.
I love it. Well, I appreciate you doing this, Blake.
Yeah,
absolutely. This is good to get to know you, and excited. I'm excited for some new teams in this Region 3 that we cover so much of. We cover a lot of 6A Region 3, 6A Region 5, Region 6, but at the 7A level, we're pretty much hanging out in Region 3, and with Spain Park and Chelsea both going down, and you guys and Hillcrest coming up, it'll be cool to meet some new people and see some new places this year.
Yeah, I think so too. Personally, I'm excited to go. We're going to the Met this year, so I think that's going to be a great experience. Which I know Prattville played there a few years ago, but again, when you think about the pinnacle of football in the state, to be able to go and compete in Region 3, and again, I think Region 3 is taking a step forward. When you look at what Hillcrest has done at the 6A level, and Tuscaloosa County's got a new really really good coach, and I think there's a lot of excitement in that program. And so there have been some years here lately where I think the perception is Region 3 was down a little bit, but I don't think that is the case moving forward right now. I think everything in the state runs right through that region. And I mean, if you just look at it historically, even on their down years, they still are playing for it, or, are playing each other in the semifinals. And I don't expect that to be different this year. I mean, I think this is going to be a really good year for Region 3 and football in this part of the state.
Yeah. Well, hopefully let's see. I know y'all are at Hoover. You're at Oak Mountain early. And then
we go to Trussville. Yep, we go to Trussville this year.
Yeah, you'll be 10 minutes from my house. So maybe I actually had a text from Kyle a few minutes ago saying like, "Hey, I'm going to get your game 1 assignment to you today." So I'm waiting to find out where I'm going week 1. But hopefully one of those games where y'all are up here, I'll get to
absolutely.
go to one of those and see you guys play this fall.
Yep, absolutely. And I appreciate you having us on. Like I said, we're excited. I know a lot of the Birmingham market may not know a whole lot about Prattville, but we're excited to get in there and kind of mix it up, so to speak, with all of our sports, really, but especially with football this fall. And Prattville there's a unique history and tradition here, and we're hopeful to see it flourish in the new region and beyond.
Absolutely excited about it. Appreciate you, Blake.
Right. Yep, awesome. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah.